Well, hello there.
Well, hello there.
Well, where do I begin?
Well, where do we begin?
Do you think we should open up every episode now and just, well, where do I begin?
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Our Popcorn Podcast. We're in a little bit of a different location today, so sorry if it's a bit echoey or even if it sounds better than normal. We won't know. But yes, welcome back to another episode. I'm Jake.
I'm Zack. What's up, party people? We're here with the news. Some long-awaited stories.
Also, in our previous episodes, we were going to try and do weekly episodes, like weekly reviews of The Walking Dead. That's not really worked out, especially with the hiatus and everything, and also because the show's not very good at the minute.
The show is essentially a terminal patient on life support. It is kept alive by the certain actors it's got on it, and it's just waiting to be plugged off the air.
And that leads us into our first story of Andrew Lincoln, as I think it's officially confirmed now.
Yeah, it's officially confirmed.
Officially confirmed he will be in 9
He's going to be in, I think, half of 9.
Yeah. He's going to be in like 9 episodes of the next series of The Walking Dead, and then he shall be departing. We don't know if this will be a death, if this will be just a walk off into the sunset, or because it will probably then officially become the Jeffrey Dean Morgan show, even though Norman Reedus is being paid stupid amounts of money to become the leading man.
I think he's going to jump ship too. I think.
What, after a series or something? He'd be like, this isn't much fun without him anymore.
Either that, or when certain things like Death Stranding come out, which are going to explode, I think he's going to have a hell of a lot more options. People are going to see him in a different light, and people are going to want him on other projects, and I think he's got the artistic leeway to kind of go walkabout, because he's kind of got that second birth with the fame of The Walking Dead. He can do as he now pleases.
Yeah, like that was his first big out there, everyone now know who Norman Reedus is. But yeah, so
whereas with Death Stranding will make him on everyone's plate, like it or hate it.
Would you want him to die, or would you want him to just walk off into the sunset?
Well, really, I think
ambiguous.
It's my favourite character on the show. It's always been the most interesting character that I enjoy, and it's for that reason it's got to be a death, because it just doesn't equate with the character in any sense of the word that he would just walk off and leave those people. He wouldn't leave Michonne. He wouldn't leave that community that he's built. I don't think he could in any sense. The entire arc of the show, his character has been his willingness to become a leader or not, and to then just say, I'm going to throw it away, I'm going to walk away, isn't going to work. And even still, it's just going to repeat what they did in season 4. Don't want to be a leader anymore, let the council deal with it. It's just, if they don't kill him off and give him a spectacular death, it's kind of just replaying old themes that we've worked on before, and it will be done in an even worse way when they get rid of the character.
And do you think it was AMC pushing for the departure, or it was more Andrew Lincoln pushing for it? Like, because he wants to move on to other projects? Because I know AMC isn't very keen on other actors
definitely
doing things.
I mean, Lauren Cohan jumping the ship as well. She's doing that new ABC series. I think it was more on his front. I think there's, like we've said, a marked change in what the show is becoming, what it's about, the quality of the content that they're showing, and I think you've got to also take into the fact that he lives a difficult life, Andrew Lincoln, because he lives in Britain, and yet he has to commute his wife and his kids out to America for most of the year to film The Walking Dead, and then he has to come back to Britain, readjust to that sort of life. So it's a difficult life to be doing that every year for so many months. It's living here, living there. It's difficult on the kids, so you can imagine on that front that's a little bit in his mind. But I think as well, the AMC wouldn't be so desperate just to kill off the lead. It's such a difficult and risky move to in the case of Spartacus, I know they didn't kill off their lead. Their lead unfortunately passed away, and they had to replace him. But it's always got that weird and jittery effect of we don't want to get rid of this person that we have been with for so long. I mean, it's what killed Primeval, in my opinion, when they killed off the main character. I think it was Cutter, his name was, and that kind of bastardised the show on that front. So I think they wouldn't do the same with AMC.
It sort of works on shows like Game of Thrones, because they have so many other points that they're showing and working out. And they're focusing on, whereas with Walking Dead, while they do have a lot of other characters that they're showing, at the end of the last series they all sort of come together, and now it sort of seems quite
It would make sense to me if Lauren Cohan staying on the show.
Yeah.
Because then they've spent the previous season like building up an arc for her. It's like, I'm going to take over. Rick is clearly no longer able to do this anymore. And then you can spend some time with the ramifications of her like usurping Rick from power, and then do something interesting with that. But the fact that they're not, it just reeks of he wants off the boat while it's not sinking fully.
Yeah.
No, I think he can go out then pretty much on his terms. He's happy with what he's done with it, and I think as a way as it works, it kind of has completed the arc for Rick. Like, Carl's now dead. In fairness, we've had the most interesting parts of the comic of his character play out. What's to come is more cool with other people. So if they do want to get rid of him, it is a prime moment, because I think you've gone as far as you can with the character in ways.
And I think with Andrew Lincoln, he's such a strong performer, but he's known for, like, primarily, obviously he's had like Teachers and a small other series, but he's known for Love Actually and The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And I think not only does he want to go into other projects, he wants to be the face of The Walking Dead while it was good, because I think he's seen that it's going downhill and it has gone quite a way. And I think he's like, I just want to do other things as well. This is a perfect jumping off point.
Yeah. There was, in every previous series, there was always like that one big, great Andrew Lincoln moment. And it's like, wow, this guy's a hell of an actor. Like, this isn't a democracy anymore. Like, the crying with Carl. There hasn't been like that moment for a season. Season 8 didn't have one for me. The last time he really gave that brilliant, like, oh crap, this is that guy moment is maybe the end of season 7 when he's like face to face with Negan. Oh, I'm gonna kill you, and he's repeating that. Or maybe when he first
I'd say the first Negan episode with like the snot bubble.
Yeah, exactly.
Where he's like fully just a gone man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we just haven't had that from him, and that's not a bash on Andrew Lincoln, but I personally don't think they're giving enough time to the character anymore. Like, they're becoming very interested in focusing on the Negan character, which you have to establish that character, but at the same time, it is Rick's story. I want to see Rick's story. And that's where the later part of season 4 didn't work, because you didn't focus on Rick very much.
I think with the ratings and viewership, it could go one of two ways. Either people would be like, okay, the show's been declining in quality, this is a great jumping off point now that Andrew Lincoln's gone. Or if it's, I want to see what they're doing without him, and then the viewing figures may go up for a bit, but then that may only last an episode or two, depends how good it is.
Yeah. And I think it's the fact that they're now, season 1 and 2, and partly bits of 3 and 4 worked in the sense that they weren't relying on the comics, they did their own subversive things, you didn't know what was coming, whereas now it is nearly nail on point, apart from like Carl's death. It's so on point with what it is, it's become a very predictable show. Whereas if something like Fear the Walking Dead, you can end this show, but you can keep that going, which leaves you open to just bringing entirely new avenues, because you haven't got an established medium. You've then got to adapt and work off of.
Yeah.
If they then want to move, I mean, I know they've done it with Morgan. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they did it with the likes of Carol or Michonne, and they move them on to Fear the Walking Dead, because they are the fan favourites. They'll boost that show up if they know they're going across. And then you've got a new platform which to keep certain characters that you love, and then tell new stories, so you don't feel attacked and you don't feel kind of like constrained in what you can do creatively, which I think is what the big problem for The Walking Dead is at the moment.
Yeah, like it has been struggling for a while.
And it's just the fact that they've been so stuck on the all-out war storyline, like the building up of the fight and the mentality of I've got to lead this war, and it's kind of been spent too long on that, and it's gone a bit stale.
I mean, like, it's still like not a completely shit show.
It's by no means Legends of Tomorrow.
Oh yeah, but there's just so many like simple ways where it could just pick things up a bit.
Yeah, like when they did the Morales reveal, that guy came back. That's a perfect opportunity to do so many interesting things, and he's just gone in like 10 seconds, and it just kind of reeked of what this show has become. We need to get in the shock factor. Like when they did it last season.
What can they talk about each episode on Talking Dead? And it's like, instead of just focusing on a good story for that particular week, it's, what will Chris Hardwick say now?
Oh, we shot Darryl in the shoulder. Is he dead? No, he's not. He's just been shot in the shoulder. It's just, it just reeks of fake out and just things that, in my opinion, a lesser show would have to resort to. Although
I am going to put some faith in the new showrunner and definitely give them a chance.
Definitely. I mean, I'm interested to see where it goes if they are doing this big time jump. I will probably tune back in for that, but it's going to have to do something really big to keep me impressed. And I think the same with the cast, because I mean, you look at Danai Gurira, they can go places now. They can really go places.
Also, if it is just a time jump, do you reckon it could just suddenly, like it shows in the mid-series finale, Rick getting injured, and then when it comes back, he's nowhere to be seen, presumed dead, and then next series, or in however many series time, they bring him back. Do you reckon that's likely to happen, or he's just gone?
I think if he's gone, he's gone. The fact that there are rumours that John Bernthald's coming back for an episode, I think that signals very clearly like they're going to do something really constructive with that final episode for him.
Tyrese's death.
Yeah, they're like ghosts or something like that. I think they'll do something like really big and bold. I think I'd be devastated if this wasn't an extended episode and then they really built into this character's going. And
although like they really went into it on Carl's death, and I still wasn't really feeling that. Like I felt more about Carl's death in the next episode when Rick and Negan were talking about it on the phone. That's when I felt the impact of Carl's death rather than the actual episode where he died. I was just thinking, okay, I should be more upset about this. I think it's every series where The Walking Dead starting to amp up again and a bit of news is coming out. Every series it's like, oh, John Bernthal's coming back for a scene. Yeah. It's like, is he? I mean, hopefully this time it's true because he's fantastic in the role. But yeah.
Well, I just hope that this death, which I think it will be, kind of signals a return to the semblance of anyone can die, because you made the point about Game of Thrones earlier. That is still a show 8 seasons in where anyone can die. Like Brewing can die, Jamie can die, and you can expect that and you can feel okay with it. The Walking Dead used to be that show, and it hasn't been for a very long time. Like, big people don't get killed off that much anymore.
Especially because...
So to go back to it would be good.
Especially because they release active information. Like, if they hadn't announced anything about Andrew Lincoln leaving, if he then did die, everyone would be in awe.
Yeah,
be like, what? After this many series, he's finally gone?
However many viewers you'd lost would instantly jump back in just to see that happen. Because that's such a shock.
It would be such a shock to just see it. Whereas, because of this news cycle and them needing some attention and everything, it makes the show lose its impact because people can sort of guess what's happening and what's coming because of the news and what actors are billed in what episode.
Yeah. I think at best we'll remember The Walking Dead for the highlights, which is what I try and look at it on with, like the positive moments and the great...
Series 1,
2,
Terminus, that sort of thing.
Yeah, the good old days.
In my day, The Walking Dead was good.
We move on from the announcement of a cast member leaving to, well, now a really big cast member returning to a major franchise. Like the fan favourite Billy D. Williams' Lando is now coming back to Star Wars Episode 9, which is expected, we know, because he cancelled a lot of like events to appear in it, but I'm happy he's coming back. I think it'll be quite good.
Yeah, especially seeing as Donald Glover recently came in and was absolutely fantastic as Lando. It'd be brilliant for Billy D. Williams to just come in and show him how it's done.
Yeah, you've re-energised love for Lando. Yeah,
because while Glover was fantastic, like just seeing Billy D. Williams come in, it would sort of like complete it, because then each sequel trilogy episode would have a new main player.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if they were planning Leia's death for Episode 9 or...
No, I think it's so haywire, like with the rewrites and what kind of Last Jedi did to the original plan. I think it's just kind of... We'll never really know now, because it is just so up in the air.
But I am excited to see him back.
Yeah, I think what all of the returning cast members have managed to be able to make me do, like, obviously they don't look the same, but as soon as they walk in and they start talking, I recognise instantly the original character, and I think Billy D. Williams is going to be able to do that, because you look at him in interviews and he just is still that guy, he's that swaggery guy. I don't think he'll be playing the same charming Lando, but I still think he'll be a return to form for that character. Like, it will be very much like how Han Solo was when he came back. It will be like he never left.
If he hits on Rey, I swear to God.
What I genuinely want is a scene where he comes back in and it's like, oh, is this the man to lead us? And he's like, heard my ship free. It's like, heard Han's gone. Can I come back my ship back? Just a comedic little thing like that would just work, and I think it would kind of set in some good faith.
I think a moment like when Luke's in the Falcon in Last Jedi and he's like, R2, if he's just sat there in the Falcon and he just has a little conversation with Chewie or something, or they just look at each other, then he's like, Chewie, I'm sorry, but does this mean I get the shit back?
I'd love something like that. What I would also note with Billy D. Williams, the fact that he's returning as Lando, is like the big complaint for me for Force Awakens was that Leia never hugged Chewie. It's at the end, he's like, Chewie's just kind of stood there. He's like, that guy was my fucking life. What am I gonna do? I want Lando to go up to him and say like, Leia, look mate, I genuinely feel for you. I get it too. Let's try and move on though.
I saw a thing after The Force Awakens just came out. It was before The Last Jedi. It was the whole Rey, who were Rey's parents, and then I saw a little comic strip that was like, actually no, it was a tweet. It was like, who cares about who Rey's parents are? I mean, clearly Chewie is her is her father, is like her dad, because he takes her to practice, takes her to Jedi practice. Yeah. He makes her lunch. He does this, that, and the other. Make sure she's home in time for tea.
Like that's kind of something else as well that I hope with Lando. Like they don't just plaster him everywhere. Like they use him in good reserve. Like you keep him as a good supporting side character. Hey, you even use him for a set piece. Like you don't. As much as I want to see him, I hope it isn't just like they're throwing him in because they know they can. Like it's someone that will get them some good faith. I hope it's been. I hope he isn't in it, and then Finn walks into frame and he just goes, "Son." It's something. Just he's there for a smart reason. He's utilised effectively, and I think JJ will use him well.
Yeah, like while I don't want Chewie to die by any means,
Chewie dies, I riot. Can't lose another one.
I hope him to be somewhere else, and then they need to he can't get to the Falcon for some reason, whatever, and then they're there with Lando, and then Lando's like, "Don't worry, I got this." Yeah. And then he's like, "I've been practicing these years," or whatever, something like that.
Just little, that works.
And then it'll be like in the Solo where Han's flying the Falcon and it plays the original music. It'll be like that, except feel earned.
Oh hell yeah, definitely. There'll be a lot more feeling behind it, especially with the recent deaths.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think his mortality rate is low for this film? I think given the way they've treated. I mean, I could see him going, but at the same time, I think it's the right decision to maybe keep him around.
Yeah, while the whole sequel trilogy's trying to be
past
different,
is dead.
Let the past die, kill it if you have to. They've already killed enough.
Yeah.
Of beloved characters, and maybe to show how little of a fuck J.J. Abrams gives, it might be funny to have a credit scene, him walking in, and then he just in the Death Star, for example, they had those high walkways with no rails. He's just walking on there, and then he falls down. He's like, ah shit, and then he dies, and then it just goes directed by J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. But just something he's just stood there. He's listening to a customer complaint. He's on that big energy stream as the guy stood on the barrier. He's I just want a reel. I mean, they said we'd be leaning, and he's just something. That would be just a beautiful meta little thing. It's just even if you have pissed everyone off with this movie, then you can just throw something in like that and it'll just be worth it.
But I am also glad that this news has sort of united a lot of fans, especially after the whole divide of The Last Jedi. A lot of people have been talking positively about Star Wars again.
Yeah, especially with Kerry Russell coming in as well. I think all of this, the idiots going on about how she's Rey's mum. That's not what you need to focus on. The fact that she's a great actress is what you need to focus on. Kerry Russell is really, really good. If you watch The Americans, she's great in that show. And I think it speaks well to me how good this film's going to be if someone like her is in it and is willing to sign on. Because she is a caliber actress and she isn't given enough credit for the work she does. So, I think needless to say, we're confident for it. I mean, I trust JJ.
Another bit of casting news is Joaquin Pheonix has been officially announced. It was rumoured before, but he's been officially announced as playing the Joker in the standalone prequel Joker film that Martin Scorsese is attached to.
No, he's not. He's not. That was a rumour. He's not attached in any way, shape or form. He had someone say it for him. I think the only person that we know for definite is Todd McFarlane. That's the only person. I think that's his name, Todd McFarlane, isn't it?
Isn't it Todd Phillips?
Todd Phillips, what am I saying?
Yeah, I said in a previous episode,
That's
Todd
awful.
Haynes. That's the director, Carol,
Yeah.
not this. Todd Phillips.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, let's just say the director from here on out.
Yeah. But yeah, especially seeing You Were Never Really Here.
Oh hell yeah!
This is a fantastic move.
I just,
especially after the failure of Jared Leto.
like, he wasn't a failure. I think he could have done something. I just think it was how he was treated.
Oh yeah, definitely. But
Like,
I mean the failure of the whole situation.
Oh hell yeah! I mean, Joaquin Phoenix has got me just 10 times more excited than anything they do with this film. Like, I think DiCaprio would have given in like a phoned in performance. I don't
think he would have phoned it in, but I think it would have been
you would have been able to tell
what we've seen before.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been enjoying it. And
whereas Joaquin Phoenix,
he just commits. Like,
he does.
Even when he's in crap, he's giving 110% the whole time. And just looking back on like performances he's done, where like he plays that chirpy, happy guy, and then when he does do things like You Were Never Really Here, and it's like that cold, calculating guy, I think it will be a nice blend to be able to see his talents put forward on both fronts and like give us something different.
Well, he wouldn't have been my top pick. I can't really fault them for choosing him.
It seems like a safe bet.
Yeah.
Like, you've just had Jared Leto, who kind of, to many people, was an unknown. I didn't really know who Jared Leto was before he was cast in Suicide Squad.
Really?
I hadn't really seen anything he was in. I'd seen things since then, but at the time I wouldn't have been like, oh my god, it's him playing it, like I was with Heath Ledger, because I knew Heath Ledger. But then when you just get someone in like Joaquin, who is so known, like, he's not a household name, but you point to a picture of that guy, people are going to know him. And I think to bring someone like him in, to have his name on the dotted line, it brings a little bit more levity to it, because I think with all of these DC news, I don't believe DC news anymore until I receive like a trailer or a confirmed release date. I just look past it, because there's so many like hats and stupid ideas throwing around there at the moment, and this seems like a secure, this is actually going to happen. Joaquin's involved. I think the fact that you've got a name like that, it just proves this film's like in the bag almost, because with the others it just seems shaky.
Okay, let's for a moment presume, I think it's probably been rumoured and it's probably announced somewhere, but let's presume for the minute it's not part of the DCEU.
Best choice.
Yeah, best choice for it, completely standalone. Say he's in it, against Joaquin Phoenix, who would you want to play Batman against him?
Like, that's... I can't have Jake Gyllenhaal. We had this conversation ages back about who we want to play Batman, and I'm still so conflicted. Because I think Affleck has got one more good performance in him for it, and I think he could do one more like good thing.
I think Affleck's in the same boat as Andrew Garfield was with The Amazing Spider-Man. He tries, but he's just in such lesser films.
Oh hell yeah!
Like he's constrained. Like Andrew Garfield said in, I think it was Variety's Actors on Actors interview. I think he said people were trying to make money, not a movie.
Yeah, which
it is, because he said how he'd be trying to talk to people like, oh, so how do you think this should go? And while there was passion behind it by the people involved, it wasn't as much passion as it could have been. Like it could have been a lot more. Oh well, why don't you try this and try that and then see how it really goes with this? Because there are like deleted scenes of that where his dad comes back and Garfield gives fantastic performance.
Oh hell yeah!
But then it's on the cutting room floor, and like there are so many moments that it could have excelled, and like he tried, and I feel like Affleck's doing the exact same.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he had that capability, like when they were making the Batman movie, and it was the Batman movie, like he had some rumors that I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna do this, and then when he gets that taken away from him, it's like you watch Justice League and he just looks so done,
especially with the
so
reshoots.
Bored.
He's like, just like nah.
And like you ask as well, like who do you want to see Batman? Like my other question is this going to be an origin film? Because I don't want it as an origin film. Like people complain about the Prometheus movies, about how no one really cares about how the aliens are being born, because that's why the aliens are so great. You don't know anything about them. Same with Predators. It's the same with the Joker. He doesn't get more interesting when you know who he is. He's interesting because he is just that figmented character that
he can do anything at a moment's notice.
I don't care where he's come from. Really, like, I mean, you can tell it right with the Killing Joke, but at the same time, that's not something that I need to know to make him interesting. Just do this as like an established film. Joaquin is the Joker when it starts. Like, you maybe do flashbacks, I don't care, but make it a Joker film. I don't need another origin story.
Yeah.
Is it just... It'll just stand apart as another thing that I'm not interested in. If they're willing to try something different, it's like, yeah, we're going to do this wholeheartedly, like we say, right out the barrel, he is the Joker, you've got to jump onto this, then I'm interested. But, I mean, all in all, I'm excited for it. He's turned nothing but good performances.
We haven't really
recently.
heard anything to not be excited about, really.
I mean, when you have just watched things like You Were Never Really Here, it does strike you with confidence because he's just a fucking maniac in that film.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's our news for this week then. We're going to be moving now into our reviews, and with a film now that I've been waiting ages to talk about on this show, especially with this man, because we've kind of reserved our thoughts with it, and that is Hereditary. Just, I think maybe one of the best made horror films I've ever seen, quite frankly. How meticulously crafted it is, just well performed, and at moments just genuinely scary.
Oh, petrifying at moments.
Like, when I watched this film, I often enter horror films with the notion that not very much scares me personally. Like, I'm scared wholeheartedly by things like claustrophobia, but characters haven't really scared me. There's only really two things that do. Like, it's Pinhead from the original Hellraiser movies, and then the Weeping Angels. There were moments in this where I was in bed at night and I was wondering if someone was stood in the corner of my room, and it was that kind of like, oh crap.
The way the director constructs fear, it's not every man's. The film isn't for everyone.
Oh hell yeah!
The way that it constructs and shows you, but doesn't show you at the same time, and you're like, did that happen? And then, like, for example, this is full spoilers on this, by the way. If you haven't seen it, go out and do yourself the favour of seeing it.
This is a life-changing horror film for you, a horror fan.
But the way that it shows the little girl hitting her head, but then you're like, he's just driving. Is she okay? Is she just in the back? Is she concussed? Is she passed out? Is she dead? And then how it lingers on that shot afterwards of her head.
It's some of the most grotesque and primal horror I've ever seen. It's like very much in the sense of what I love about The Shining is how it's like a human emotional psychological horror, and then it becomes spiritual spooky horror. A lot of the horror in that film is like the brutality of the act, like it focuses on the head, as you've said, and then when he doesn't even know how to like tell his mum, the only way he can commute is just to show her the body and let her scream, just the pain of her like wailing on the floor, I just want to die. And yet then when it moves into the supernatural, when she's smashing her face against the attic door, when she's like cutting off her head with the rope, it's just such a myriad blend that works so well together. And it just flips on its head because the film kind of essentially changes halfway through from a psychological to a supernatural, and it's done flawlessly. You are invested in on how it works.
Yeah, it sets up this interesting world that you become invested in with the characters, and you can sort of see things foreshadowed, like when she eats the cake, but then towards the end you're like, what the hell is happening here?
Yeah. I think it is definitely a film that requires multiple viewings, in the sense that what I loved about Get Out last year is that was a horror film you could watch twice and you would get so much more subtext. Hereditary was exactly the same. Like when you see the little things about like knowing that Charlie is possessed in that film, and then when she does the like, and you can tell in these moments where it's like she's seeing her aunt, her grandma, sorry, and they're going through these things. It's just so well laid, so well put down. Like the fact that she's eating the sweets and you think, is that payment testing of whether the girl's going to die? And then when it goes in for the cake and it says like, oh, they're not giving it to everyone. Is that like Payman testing him? Or is that her saying, please, Payman is using me. He knows that if I eat this, I'm going to die. And at the same time, you look at the character of Joan, like the helpful lady, and it's like, Christ, she was so evil and you didn't even spot it. There were like little things where it's like, oh, they just run into each other at the grocery market. It's no, she has been waiting there for her. She's just fucking about with the thing she's putting into the boot.
I presumed it would be more predictable and it would be like, oh, it was all in her head. Like when she first went to her apartment and she wasn't there about halfway, towards the end of the film.
Yeah.
And she looks at the rug and everything. I thought, oh no, it's just going to be predictable. It's going to be, she didn't really exist. It was all in her head. And then it doesn't do that. And it just shocks you.
Yeah, and I think it very much lives up to the name of Hereditary in the sense that you think the whole film is about the passing of a mental illness, like how it's been passed down to these people and her family, like, and how she's been told that her father killed herself, her father starved to death, her brother killed herself, her mother's gone and died with no friends or family, and then how it kind of builds in her mind, it builds the horror, and then when she finally realises that nothing has happened, that she's been lied to her whole life, and then it's the supernatural element that comes in, is able to take over her mind. The demon is what possesses her to do these terrifying things. That was why I found it so intricate, because I think any other horror film could have just done it set up like, oh, it's just this dark character, but I think just to put so many layers into the subtext and just to what she meant, and to see her react in these moments, it felt earned, and it felt so stunningly human, that they talk like real people, and they fear the living shit out of what's happening like real people.
I'm going to make an argument here and say that the best scene in the entire film is just after the little girl has died and they're eating dinner, and then how that tension builds, and then how it's like, I am your mother!
You don't talk to me like that, you little shit!
And then just how it suddenly changes, and this father trying to keep the family together after this tragedy.
I mean, just a little side note, he deserves a hell of a lot of commendation. Like, I know Tony Collette's been getting a lot of praise, but Christ, he was good as well. Like, really.
Yeah. And it was the dude from The Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot to work with, but what he does do, he does really well with, because it's not always easy to be a supporting role in these sort of things, because it's just like, it can be pretty one note of, yes, darling, and making sure they're okay, right. Yeah. But here, he really adds levels to it, like when he's at the traffic lights.
Yeah, he reacts as a human does.
Yeah. Fantastic performances all around.
And I think the performances are so primal in what makes the terror work. I think, particularly Alex Wolff, he really works in making you not only feel the actual terror of the scene of what's happening, but when it's revealed that Payman has entered, I think his name was Sean, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Sean, when it's entered him, you look back on his performance and you say there's been so many things that they've just been setting up. It's like when they do the first seance, and he's like, do you not feel the air around you? It's like they just set up so much of just subtext and just things to look back on. And it was, a technically flawless film in my opinion. Just the way the horror was shot, I think in a lesser horror film where she's on the ceiling and it does the little scuttle by. In a lesser horror film, that would have been a jump scare. That would have been the big whoa, thrown in on that. Whereas in this, it was just so subtle, and it was just the image of it that was allowed to scare you.
I saw this film with my father and my sister. When we came out, we were discussing it, and we were talking about all our theories about it, because it's a film that raises many questions. Yeah. And while I found it to be very scary, and in moments completely artistically beautiful, while horrifying, I was speaking to my sister, and she said, "Oh, it wasn't that scary." I was like, "Why?" I thought it was good in these scenes because you relate to the characters, and suddenly out of nowhere, and then
there's a naked man in the house.
Yeah, I was going through all these lists of reasons and talking about it and how meaningful it was. She was like, "Nah, Jake, there aren't enough jump scares." And I looked at her and thought, "Are you bloody serious?" Because while a lot of people are praising it for how inventive it is and how it's a horror film that's actually scary, because we're having a good lot of horror recently.
Definitely.
There's also so much crap horror out there, and I think
buckets full.
I think she stands for and speaks for probably the most, I don't want to say not enlightened filmgoers, but I'd say the general public with horror, because they're used to thinking jump scares are scary. They're used to thinking that the tension just before the jump scare is something that's petrifying and to be feared, whereas instead it can be quite cheap.
It's the cutaway of hard-built tension that the director has masterfully worked into the film and has worked very hard to be able to not only build but sustain, and then to just have something like a jump scare come in and ruin it. It's a freaking epidemic. It like passes through so many horror films at the moment that's what so many people attach themselves to. Whereas for me, like, I watch shit ton of classic horror films I like. I don't mind jump scares. I think they're very effective used in the right way and when they're measured. But for me, it wasn't like those little jump scare things that scared me. It was like the quiet moments. It was specifically like my favourite shot in the entire film is after she's just been possessed, and it's like the shot of the house in daylight. And it quickly snaps to black, and it's just, you can see those naked people outside the house. Yeah. And it's just the subtleties is what makes me gravitate towards that film. Not just that it's in your face. It is willing to be slow. It's willing to not cater to those audiences. And that's why I like it so much.
Well, I found the imagery all disturbing, and like at the end when the full transformation comes through and it has the little girl's head on that crucified thing. I find the stuff this makes me think of like tangibility in horror. It makes me think that in the school, when he was freaking out and he was slamming his head against the desk, I found that a lot scarier and a lot creepier than the final shot, because while all the final bits was petrifying, I feel like there's a relatability on being able to put yourself in that situation. And while there's no problem with having the whole balls to the walls, the whole demon coming through and everything like that, I personally felt the other scenes to be more effective. And I think that's also why I found the dinner scene most effective in the whole piece, because it did just put these interesting, complex and flawed characters into this scene, and you can just place yourself in it.
And that's why I think it will work, and I think it will personally be remembered in years to come, because it is a horror film that affects you on different levels. Like you've just said, it's like the psychological elements that have scared you and remembered you about it, whereas for me, it was that alongside the supernatural elements, like just some of those scenes where it's like they turn off the lights and they're just still in the corner. Yeah. Those stuck with me because they were just so well crafted, I think. And just, you can also like get some of these fans who are just going to love this film for the little metaphors it puts in, like the fact that it starts off in the doll's house and it does the zoom in, just the fact that it's her commentary on her trying to want to control her life. It's all the little subtle things that I think will bring fans back to it for years to come, that will make them consistently interested in it. And it's probably my third favourite film of the year. Like, I think it's the best performance of the year from Toni Collette. I think she definitely deserves an Oscar for that. I think she was incredible in that film. Just for that dinner scene alone, the energy she brings to it, and she makes you believe it. And then how she can just kind of flick in between those emotions just so much that she can be very blunt, and then certainly certain lines she's quite funny, and then even when her husband's just burned alive and she's like there, she's screaming, she's wailing, and then her face just contorts to show that she's possessed. Yeah. That's a hell of a talent from an actor to be able to pull off something so difficult like that. And it just speaks of a prestige for me that is not often present in horror anymore. Like I say, this is personally one of the best made horror films I've seen since maybe The Babadook. Like, to be able to do so much on that metaphorical and subtextual level, and then also on a physical and human level, it just relentlessly impressed me.
I'd say A Quiet Place is fantastic horror that's more sort of mainstream, and I'm not saying that negatively in any way. I loved Quiet Place, but I'd say that's more for a lot more audiences, whereas Hereditary is a lot more niche. It's definitely not for everyone.
No, I've seen it twice, and it's like the first viewing I saw it, people were laughing. Second viewing, people were running out of cinema. Yeah. It was just so different in that sense of how it affects multiple people, and I think we haven't had horror like that in a long while.
And with just going back to jump scares, they can be used effectively. Like in Creep, for example, they're used effectively because it helps slowly bring it up, and then when the camera's moving slowly, and it helps amp up the tension, whereas it's used lazily a lot. But that was my little thing about jump scares, because Creep is fantastic. Everyone should go watch it.
Jump scares work, just not when they're frequent.
Yeah.
That's why I love The Shining, because I think there's like only really one big jump scare, and that's when you see the Grady twins cut down.
Yeah.
That's the big, and you remember it consistently, whereas with a lot of horror films it is jump scares every time they go around a corner.
Yeah.
So that's why it worked, and this film just spoke of a higher level of craft because they didn't need to resort to things like that. They had the ability, they knew they had such a strong script, and what the people were saying and what they were doing was going to be enough to scare people. Certain people, I mean, other than just throwing like a loud noise at the screen. And that's why I respect it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a fantastically crafted film, and like I think it had one of the best trailer trolls in it since possibly, I know it doesn't seem that long ago, but Infinity War, where it had the picture of, it had the shot of Tony looking all sad and glum, and then finally when you see the film you're given the context of it, and like here where it shows in the trailer that funeral,
and
you're like, oh, it's for the mother.
It's like, no, it's...
And then it's like, no, it's for the daughter. And then just that whole thing in general.
Yeah.
Just the whole idea of them actually... Because a lot of films don't really have the guts, per se, to kill off kids, to kill off pregnant people. And while this film doesn't kill off pregnant people, it has the guts to do that to a child and then show it so grotesquely, but it never feeling like it's just there to shock, because while it gets a jolt reaction from the audience, it feels earned, and then how it lingers on it, it's not just like trying to be subversive or anything, it feels natural.
Yeah, and it's lingering on it, not just for like, oh, we want to show you the gore, we want to make you feel sick. It's lingering on it because it's layering subtext. It's like it's saying how Payman has orchestrated for this act to happen, and that's what I like about it.
But also, how the hell is this only a 15?
Yeah, this was stupendously graphic. I think the fact that it's got no nudity is probably the reason that it's a 15.
It does have a little bit of nudity though, like not a lot, but
at
the
the
end
end,
when they're all there.
You don't really see full frontal.
That shot of even just the kid's head, that...
Yeah.
I feel like this film should be an 18.
I wouldn't disagree. Like, I mean, look at Jaws. That was rated, I think it was a PG when that first came out.
Yeah.
And now look how things have changed. I think in time, who knows, it may get recertified, but I think this is the kind of horror that not only chills you, like when you remember at the beginning of the film when they're at the funeral and like Charlie's looking down at a moment that the guy just smiles at her, and then that's the naked guy. Like, it's those little chilling moments, and then it's those horribly grotesque moments, like you said, with the head, that just scares you on so many levels. I think it will affect you psychologically, if not just emotionally.
Yeah,
like you could be scared, but then it will think like, oh, like I needed a cup of coffee after I'd seen this. Like I need
a cold shower.
Yeah, you can't watch this and then go back into it. It's watch it, think for days, then go back with your best intentions.
Like, there's so much to pick apart here, and so much to dissect and analyse, because it's just such a tightly packed, well woven together story that you'll struggle to find a better made film. Like, I'm not saying that there aren't better films out there, I'm saying that the way that it's made and constructed, and just the director's vision being put on screen.
Hats off to A24, hats off.
Oh yeah.
Like, this is one of the best things they've ever made, and if it's more like this year, then Christ, we're in for a good year. And just when you can make a film like this that's the equivalent to Mother or Get Out, where I walk out of the theatre and I've got 9 different theories about what it's really about, and I want to go and instantly see it again, you know you've made a good horror film. Just a good film in general.
With Mother, I've found that it hit you hard, and it suddenly like keeps packing punches, and it gets into you that way, and it beats you down. Whereas with Hereditary, I find that it seeps into your skin.
Yeah.
It slowly gets in, like with Mother and like with Hereditary and like Killing of a Sacred Deer, it doesn't let you go.
It
weeks
does it
after
when it
you've
wants
seen
to,
it.
yeah.
It's just the way that it seeps into your skin where you're unaware of it, like it's slowly taking over until the end where it's all you can think about and you're trying to figure everything out, but you just can't.
I think it just gets you in little ways as well, in the sense that you can be making a glass of water and then someone just behind you just goes and you're just like instantly drawn back into, oh fuck it, it's here. There's little subtleties that remain with you. It just speaks to the prestige of this film.
And then we go into our second review, which is Netflix's 2018 release Cargo, starring Martin Freeman. It's a zombie film, but it's so much more than the regular zombie film. It doesn't suffer from all the regular things you get from Poltergeist films, because while it does hop on that bandwagon, they make it stand out so differently and effectively, not only with the setting but with how the actual creatures are designed, that you can't help but love it.
This is without doubt one of the best Netflix originals that's ever been made. Just their willingness to try and be daring with this medium. I think the zombie medium has become so constrained by what shows like The Walking Dead present it as. It's like this the survival story, we're taking the fight to the zombies. This isn't that. This is that beautiful story about what humanity is within that scenario, and how like you try and reconnect with people that you've lost, but then also how you try and have to reconnect with new people. And I think that it builds just so immensely strongly that those two family narratives, how it's the closing of one family where he loses his wife, and yet it's the birth of another family where he does get in with Tui, and he does like they both try and care for the daughter as the parents did, and it takes a risk, and it's just engaging from start to finish, like the quiet moments to the tense moments.
This is in no way detrimental to the film, but it felt almost to me like it was a video game, like a video game film, because it felt like it had side quests with the different characters in then like them going off and having to restart the pumps and everything like that. Like it felt, that's not disjointed is not the word, but it just felt very much like the world was lived in. Like it's not just him going to someone and then being like, oh yeah, we'll do that for you, we'll look after your daughter. It's he has to work for it, he has to earn it. And then like also some of the inventive ways of like how this horrible dude like keeps people in cages and then attracts them that way. Just fantastic film.
No, even just the way that the zombies are presented, like
it looks like marmalade.
Yeah,
but it's like this horrible thick.
And then when they bury their heads in the earth, and it's just like he's trying to do the same. It's just foul. Like I don't think we've seen. Like I think we've become a bit desensitized to gore, given the sight of The Walking Dead, but
it does this in a unique way.
It's
where
so different. Where it's like, oh god.
Like it's not a zombie walking into a bit of broken glass and then the skin coming off. It's just more relatable. Like again with the tangibility and horror. Like you can. Like you can just see that sort of happening rather than the whole like it doesn't go into oh that's just a monster, that doesn't look like us, that it looks like people.
Yeah, and that's why I think it makes those emotional moments where they do have to say goodbye to the ones they love all the more impactful, because it's not like you say like the skin's removed from the head, this is that person that I loved, like Tui when he looks at his dad and the well, and it's like I can't let him go because this is my fucking dad. Like he's got this thing that's wrong with him, but that's still the person that I know in there, and that's why it's just it works so strongly. Like there's so many recountable moments, like when he's having to pull himself out of the car when his wife is stuck in there, when he's having to like push himself through that desert as much as it kills him to do it. And he's like, come on, tell me what your language is, and then just that final shot of where he's just walking into the camp, it's just iconic screen moment after iconic screen moment.
Martin Freeman's having a hell of a year with smaller films, like with Ghost Stories and with this. Like, yes, he was in The Hobbit and yes, he was in Sherlock, like massive things, but just the smaller character stuff where he can experiment more and show more of what he's capable as an actor, whereas like in The Hobbit he was just walking about. And while I'm not saying he gave a bad performance in The Hobbit by any means, he was given a lot more to do here. And I also like how even though when he lost his wife he then found Tui, so he then found another strong woman, because Tui had built herself up, and rather than just being weak from the world just bringing her down, she was who she wanted to be, and she believed what she wanted to believe, because that's how she got herself through the days.
And I think it speaks precedent as well to like the capability of Martin Freeman when he can appear in probably two of the best indie films we've seen this year. I know released on Netflix, but it's still pretty much an indie film, and yet he can then also appear in big tentpole films like Black Panther. Like he can. That's the thing I love about Martin Freeman. He's just such a versatile actor. Like, you can put him in this dark, sadistic drama. You can put him in your big summer tentpole movies, and then you can put him in a silly little comedy like Nativity. He's just such an engaging and just relatable and just comedic and interesting performer that every time he does something, you're just interested to see it.
Yeah, like you compare his performance in this to his one in The Office. It just shows how different his performances are and how he embodies different characters.
Yeah, and it's a rare feat that I think we don't often see. We don't get to see enough of it, where I think he kind of resembles what the old-fashioned movie star was, in the sense that they could be an everyman, they could do anything, they could be in what they... not in what they wanted, what they were needed in, and I think he's one of those people. Like, he is a bankable star, and I think it's unfortunate that people are only realising that now, as he is getting older, and he's going to be able... Like, he's not old, but, like, we're not going to get as many...
We're not going to get, like,
brilliant
a Bourne
performances
film
as we
out
could
of
have.
him.
Yeah, we're not going to get a Bourne film. And that's a little bit of a sad thing. But I think, as well, like, Netflix at the moment, they've got this model of, like, oh, let's get an indie film, let's get a small film, let's package it, let's patent it as a bigger thing. This is where the Netflix model is really working, because I think this is one of those films that deserves to be seen. Annihilation or Bright would have been something that people went to see at the theatres, because it would have had that audience that would have gone to see it. This isn't something that I think would have gone down nearly as well. And I think the fact that it was on something like Netflix ultimately saved it and made it so that it was as popular as it was.
Right, so that's our review of Cargo. Highly recommended. If you haven't seen it already, why were you listening to that? Because we just spoiled it for you.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, get a hold of it.
Oh, quickly, just remembered about that. The final shot of him going through with his two girls on his back, I thought, oh God, is he dead? And I was like, oh, okay, he is. Bloody hell, they did it, they went there. And then just before he was killed, and they were like, and she was like, no, stop. And then she went to bring the perfume out. I was like, oh God, if that perfume brings him back, I swear to God, I'm calling out of this, that the whole thing would have been, like, it would have completely negated the rest of the film, as it would have just been a cheap thing. But it was just that beautiful moment where Tui does it, and then they then kill him. Yeah. And it was just such a beautiful, heartfelt, little nuanced moment that you don't get in everything.
Yeah, and I think
that really distinguishes it apart from other
it would be something that I think we come to remember in years to come. Like, when we look back on certain films for certain endings, that would be one that I think stands out as being just not what we ever thought it could have been.
Yeah.
And you don't ever expect it to be that. You think he's going to make it at the end, and then when he doesn't, it is a little more heart-shattering. Because he's just a great guy. Yeah.
So that was our review of Cargo. Highly recommended. Now we're going to go into Quickfire Question. First one back since the hiatus. And we're going to bring the scoreboard back down to 0.
Wipe the slate clean.
Wipe the slate clean, as it were. And we're going to come up with a better system on judging them. If we have a guest host on, then the guest will... then whoever's on, or like if we have a third presenter on, then they'll be able to referee, as it were, and be able to be like, I preferred this argument, I preferred this answer, whatever. But when it's just the two of us, we'll then put the poll out on Twitter. We'll get other people's opinions on it, and then the next episode, whoever has the most votes, one with the most votes, they'll be the winner. So we're not deciding it unless it's a guest host, we're not deciding it in the episode. We'll then come back to it the next week and then bring the scores up from there.
Yeah. And if there are no votes on the poll, there will be a fair systematic form of determining who is the winner, like who receives a point.
So the quickfire question is where someone proposes a question, we both give an answer. It can be about a film, it can be how we propose and create our own film, or anything like that. But yes. Right, so my quickfire question is...
Make it good. I'm prepared.
So my quickfire question is, what is the best unoriginal soundtrack for a film? And my argument is going to be Baby Driver. Because the music is to the beat of the film. It's edited with that in mind. It has the lyrics in the background. It has all these beautiful Edgar Wright-isms that just make it feel so lived in and so tight and compact. And then the little details in the background, like the black heart going red when she walks past in the coffee shop. And it's just these small moments with how it's not only like it has a great song to go with it, like to go with a certain scene, but it's how the scene also molds around the song as they work in tandem and conjunction, and they just work together rather than it setting the tone, because not only does it set the tone, but it also sets the pace, it sets everything else. And it just like the actors were sent the scripts with a CD with the songs to listen to, because then they can get a sense for what's being described in words in the script. And before Edgar Wright started filming, he made sure that he had all the rights to the songs because of how integral it was. And the whole reason why we got the film is because for years Edgar Wright was listening to bell bottoms and was like, I'd picture a car chase to this song. And that's almost like just how this film works together. And it obviously, this doesn't go towards my argument, but not only does it have great unoriginal music, the original soundtrack is also fantastic as well. But yeah, I'm going to say Edgar Wright's 2017 fantastic Baby Driver, in my opinion, has the best unoriginal soundtrack to a film.
I think that's not really a fantastic pick. It's one of the best things about the film. I think it does play amazingly into the way it's crafted. I think it's a great question as well, because we have had an amazing year for soundtracks. Like the Black Panther unoriginal soundtrack was beautiful, the way Kendrick Lamar did that. Not to mention also as well, the Hereditary soundtrack worked perfectly. But I think my pick, it's going to be a little bit more of an on-the-nose one, but I'm going to go for James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy, The Awesome Mix Volume 1. I think mine works specifically in the sense that it plays into specific character moments. Like, it establishes who these people are. That moment of just come and get your love, and when he's dancing like that, it just establishes who that character is to a floor. And it's memorable. Every single song in this film is memorable. Like when it's playing, like Do You Like Pina Colada? As I just said, Come and Get Your Love. All of them are meticulously played into certain points, and I think it also plays in very well to what the style of the film is. It is that hyper reality. It is junky. It's jumping. Like it's moving around. It's fast paced. It's just this off the wall crazy thing. I think the fact that it features so many 80s things, it works well to contain it in that world. But then also, I think the fact that it becomes an iconic soundtrack, it proceeds past what the film is. I love The Awesome Mix Volume 1 because there are songs on it for everyone. There's a mellow song if you're feeling down. There's a happy song you need to get up and groove. There's songs for kids. There's songs for adults. There are songs that you will recognise. There are songs you're probably going to hate too. But no doubt you will get some sort of connection out of at least one of them from The Awesome Mix. It also works in the sense that when Volume 2 was announced, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 I mean, people were just as excited for what Volume 2 of The Awesome Mix was going to be as they were the first one. I think that's why I'd personally put it out. I think Baby Driver works well if you use the music to craft the scene, but I think by itself, it's not that brilliant a soundtrack. Like
I know
personally, I downloaded the soundtrack, got rid of a few of them quite quickly. Some of them still remain, whereas the awesome mix I will keep on my phone. I'll be scrolling through that if I know about people coming over. People are going to enjoy that. Plus, I think yours is like used very specifically to attribute to the craft of the film, like to build in certain character beats, certain set pieces, and then like to build in like certain little moments for the film. Like when you say like when he's walking through, like it's establishing like what this film is going to be. Mine establishes a tone, and also it builds into what the characters are, like those moments of just pure glee and ecstasy, and then those dark moments. And I think it does very well in the sequels too. But I'm not going to argue that because that's cheating. But yeah, so I'd say it's the awesome mix from Guardians of the Galaxy.
I was going to be very harsh when I asked the question and be like, so what's the best unoriginal soundtrack to a film? For example, Awesome Mix Volume 1. My answer is this, and then you'd have had to go like, oh, shit.
I would have played Devil's Advocate. I'd have gone Volume 2. I'd have just beaten you down. I would have. But no, I think they're two extremely strong soundtracks. Like they're all memorable. There's that. I hate to use the tagline for Baby Driver. There is that one killer track to all of them. Like there's that song in both of them that you love for different viewers.
And again, this is just part of the discussion, but I feel like it could be argued against that you don't listen to the Baby Driver soundtrack, because me and my mates, we put that on, like, for example, especially in the car driving.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, I'd hate to be hooked on a feeling. Yeah, Jake is just...
leave.
He's just looking at me now.
Okay.
So, that was the Quickfire Question for the week. We're now going to move into a segment that we've thoroughly neglected over the past few weeks. That's What's Appertaining. We'll be discussing what we got basically in the way of films over the past few weeks, and then we're also discussing kind of what we're working on, what we're enjoying, what we're watching, just basically what's going on in our lives. I mean, my bargain bin has been pretty good this week. Managed to pick up You Were Never Really Here, which was a much long-awaited release for me. I've been waiting to get my hands on that for ages. Also managed to get like a nice little free deal. I got Apocalypse Now, Signs, and then I also believe Live, Die, Repeat. What am I saying? Edge of Tomorrow, and then also The Exorcist with it. So that was a nice little 4-pack of classics, not fully, and then have the nice little You Were Never Really Here with it. Just kind of nice little one to get.
Since December, I have bought so many DVDs and Blu-rays.
Oh, we're going from December, are we?
I have no clue what to do with I have no clue. Like, we're redecorating my room at the moment, and I had to put them all into boxes, and then we had to buy some more boxes from the shop, and then some more boxes.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to admit I have a bit of a problem.
Likewise. I think it's going to be like shaving off an addict when we have to work out which ones we're going to take to uni and which ones we're going to leave behind.
But yes, I'll give people the full rundown next week.
Oh.
Mysterious, I know.
Dun dun dun.
Actually, no, not next week, the week after that.
Go on then.
Because, yeah, I can't think of them off the top of my head.
So, we'll move in now to kind of like what we're doing. Like,
what's Appertaining?
Yeah, as we said in previous weeks, we're kind of just like working on crap ton of films, like working our way through filmographies, and just trying to get done what we can. Like for me, TV wise, I've recently just finished the James Cameron's Story of Sci-Fi. This was incredible. Absolutely loved it. I mean, they advertise it incorrectly. You think it's going to be long discussions with Del Toro and Spielberg and Cameron, but that's about a sixth of what it is. There are so many other conversations with like film critics and like cinematographers and sound designers, and I think their voice also works into it really well. And it's a great show in the sense that there's so many different types of episodes. Like there's one on monsters, one on time travel, there's one on robots. Like if you're a sci-fi fan, there'll be something to enjoy with it. And I hope to be next week starting Big Little Lies, finally get into that, finally enjoy it, alongside my rereading of Sharp Objects, which I want to get in before the Amy Adams show releases next time. I think it's on Showtime, which I'm excited for because it's the guy by the girl who wrote Gone Girl, so I'm hoping that'll be another great show because I also greatly enjoyed the book when I read it the first time.
I've noticed I've been watching a lot of Rob Reiner films with like This Is Spinal Tap and also Misery, Stephen King's one, absolutely fantastic. But I've just noticed because I've been like putting on classic films, trying to get through more classic ones, and then just been noticing directed by Rob Reiner. I'm like, oh, good bloke. What a good bloke.
This guy.
But I've also, in terms of television, I've been watching a lot of HBO shows.
Wonderful.
I binged all of Silicon Valley. Absolutely loved it. It was brilliant. Can't recommend that enough. Big Little Lies. That was fantastic. Such a satisfying ending, and I can't wait to see what they do in series 2, especially with this cast and then bringing Meryl Streep in.
That's the reason I jumped in. I thought Meryl Streep. That says it all.
Also, last night I started the first episode of HBO's new Amy Adams one, Sharp Objects.
Any good?
Fantastic. Sophia Lillis is also in it. She's great.
I think we know exactly why he got into this show.
And just the performances, the direction, everything about it, you can tell that it's high budget without it being boasty about it, because it doesn't necessarily be like, oh, it's been over budgeted, oh, it's been under budgeted. It just feels right. And I also like the aesthetic, even though they did steal my aesthetic of lower cases and Times New Roman. But, you know, I'll let it slide because it's a very good series. I can't wait to see where it goes. And as Zack said, it's Gillian Flynn?
Yeah.
Gillian
I always
Flynn.
say Gillian, but you say Gillian.
Writer of Gone Girl. And I gave my sister the book about a year ago now, and she read it fairly quickly because she's a fast reader, and she said it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, the book
so
is
I cannot wait.
Really great.
Yeah.
Just to also tag on, because you were talking about your directors, I didn't get a chance to jump in on mine. I'm doing all the Hitchcocks at the moment. Recently watched The Trouble with Harry. Christ, that's incredible. These are just the greatest films I've ever had the pleasure of seeing in some cases, and I think by the end of this journey I'm going to be a different man, not to mention a different filmmaker, when you've just seen this many Hitchcock films, because they're all just incredible.
I've also finally finished the Alien franchise.
Woo!
While it
thank God.
had its ups and it definitely had its downs, overall I enjoyed it a lot. I absolutely loved it. And my next franchise to finish is going to be Rocky.
Oh, I love you, man. Like, people can't see, but I've been waiting for him to watch these for forever. So I'm so happy he's finally getting into them.
Yeah, that's what's been appertaining.
So, now we'll move into our final segment of the show, and it is Recommendation of the Week. It's going to be my turn this week, and I'm going to bring you what is a thinking man's piece, and it's going to be something that there are very big demographics of people who will love this film. There are even bigger demographics of people who will hate it. It is shot so uniquely, it feels like it's a real experience that you're seeing. What's happening to these people is actually happening. The dialogue feels so fresh and vibrant. It feels like what actual people say. It doesn't feel crafted or constructed. It feels like they left a camera there and they just let it roll. The plot is one of the most subversive, incredible, twisting things that I've ever come across. The premise of it and the ramifications of what it states at the ending, how it creates one of the most memorable science fiction film endings that I've seen in a long while. I sound like I'm overhyping it, but trust me, this film will throw you for a loop, it will have you thinking, and it will just make you want to go back and pinpoint little moments that just speak to so many premises and interesting things. If you're a physicist or a real science kind of person, you're going to be amazed by this film and how highly it holds up certain theories and certain concepts. And it just draws so many parallels to Primer in the way that they clearly don't have a lot of budget and yet they make it work with just such a simple premise. And that is the 2013 film Coherence. This is a difficult one to get your hands on, but if you can get a hold of it, watch it, because it is something that at the very least will have you scratching your head, and those are the perfect kind of films for me. So thoroughly recommend.
So that was the Sour Popcorn podcast for this week. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's nice to be back into the old schedule, like kind of the old format, old routine.
And in the famous words of Charlie Brooker, go away.